Good morning. We are continuing with our unit on our angles by doing CO53. I can identify vertical and corresponding angles. Our last objective was talking about the complementary and supplementary. Now we're going to learn about vertical and corresponding angles. So to start that, we need some definitions. So vertical angles are angles opposite each other at a common vertex. Vertical angles are congruent. So angles opposite each other at a common vertex. That's what vertical angles are. So they're opposite of each other. And I'm going to show us a picture of what that means to be opposite. Key thing we have to know is they have a common vertex. When we talked about the complementary and supplementary angles, we said they didn't have to be next to each other. As long as they equaled 90 degrees or 180 degrees, our vertical angles have to have a common vertex. Who remembers what the vertex is? Yeah, that corner point where the angle lines meet. So they have to have that common vertex. James?
What do you mean by a common vertex?
I'm going to show us. I'll show us examples, okay? So they're going to meet at the same point. So I want you to draw your example. You're going to draw a line. And then you draw another line. So if we look at our angles, we can see there's an angle here. This would be its vertex. So the angle opposite of it is here. They share that same vertex. Their corner points are connected, and they are opposite of each other. See how that works? They make that X. Okay, so they're making the X. Vertical angles are congruent. What does it mean to be congruent? Luciana? Yeah, it means they're the same. They are equal. So they have the same measurement. So if this angle is 60 degrees, what does this angle have to be? 60 degrees. They are congruent, they are equal. So when we talk about our vertical angles, those angles that make the X, they share that same center point. They are opposite of each other. So they are the same measurement. They are congruent. So if this is 60 degrees, what measurement is that other angle going to be? What would this angle be? Think about what we learned yesterday. James?
30.
Why 30? That would make it a right angle, right? Is that a right angle? What is that from here to here? What kind of angle is that? Is that a right angle?
Straight.
It's a straight angle. How much does a straight angle equal? How much does a straight angle equal? 180. So if we know that one angle is 60 degrees, and we know it's a straight angle, that's 180 degrees, what's our missing measurement?
120.
120. Because 120 plus 60 equals that 180 degrees. They are supplementary. So what's this angle on this side? Why, Bennett? Because it is congruent with the angle that is opposite of it. They are the same. 60 and 60, 120 and 120. Does that make sense? So when you have that X, the top and the bottom are the same measurement, the two sides are the same measurement, and because it's that straight line making your X, they're supplementary. So you can add up the two measurements that aren't the same, that aren't congruent, and it should equal 180 degrees. So another example of that. Doesn't look the same. It's not just a straight X. It still follows the same rules. This angle is going to be congruent with this angle. These two angles are congruent with each other. When you see those lines like that, it means it's congruent. If it has the same number of lines, it means they are the same measurement. So the one line is equal to the one line. The two lines are equal to any other measurement that has the two lines. So when you see it drawn with lines, you know that they are equal to each other. They are congruent. Two lines is not equal to one line, so they are not congruent angles. That makes sense? All right, so using what you know about straight angles and vertical angles, write in each unmarked angle measurement. How many degrees is a straight angle? 180 degrees. And vertical angles are opposite and congruent. So if we have 150 degrees right here, what measurement is this angle? If up here is 150 degrees, it's congruent. It's opposite and they have the same vertical vertex. So it's 150. How much is this angle? Matthew? Jillian?
30 degrees.
How did you know it was 30 degrees, Jillian? Because 150 plus the 30 makes our straight angle of 180 degrees. So then, how much is this last angle? Why is it 30 degrees, Bennett? Because it's congruent with the one right across from it. It's opposite angle. Goes across, they are going to be the same. You are going to do these last two on your own. This one has two X's. So it actually counts for two problems, right? You have to fill in with each X. Fill in all of those angles. I want you to put your pencils down right now. We are not working on those right this moment because we have the bottom half of the page too. So I don't want you working on that top part as we're learning about corresponding angles. So we need to know what corresponding angles with parallel lines means. Definition are angles in the same location at a different vertex. When lines are parallel, corresponding angles are congruent. So when we hear all this, we have a lot of mathy terms in there. These are all terms that we've learned. Okay, so don't be scared off by all the mathy terms. Just think about what we know. So the first thing I want to say is, what are parallel lines? Aiden.
That are the exact same, or they don't cross.
Lines that will never ever cross. So they have the exact same slope. They're never going to cross each other. So if I draw parallel lines, it's not going to be perfect because I'm hand drawing it, but they are both going one on top of the other. They don't have to be going straight like that. They could be going up like this, as long as they're not going to cross each other. Those are parallel lines. Then it says angles. The angles for corresponding angles will be at the same location at a different vertex. So they're not going to share that same corner. So we're going to have a line that comes through and splits them. So now we're looking at two different vertical angle sets. Right? We've got two different x's happening. There's the x up here and the x down here. So we're going to look at the angles that have the same location. So here's an angle on this parallel line. Here's its corresponding angle down here. So it's at the same location. It's in that upper left corner of our x. So upper left corner of the x, upper left corner of the x. So we have our two x's of vertical angles, and they share that same location. I'm not looking for the vertical angles that go opposite of each other because they share a vertex. We don't want to share the vertex with corresponding angles. Luciana.
So corresponding angles cross each other?
Corresponding angles do not cross with each other because we don't want that same vertex. They're going to have different vertexes.
With parallel.
Maybe I'm not understanding your question.
Like, they're on parallel lines.
Yes, they're on parallel lines. So we've got that line that crosses the parallel lines. You need to know that the corresponding angles are going to be in that same spot on the different x. Okay, so this is we have our four angles here. This is the upper left. This one is the upper left. So they're going to be in the same location of the different x's that we make. Then it says corresponding angles are congruent. What does that mean if they are congruent? We just talked about that word congruent. What does it mean, JT? They're the same measurement. So this angle is going to measure the same as this angle. They are congruent. So if we said this angle was 110 degrees, this angle would be 110 degrees. They are congruent, they're the same. So if they are a corresponding angle on a parallel lines, they're going to be congruent, the same measurement. Let's look at if we had, let's say our parallel lines go this way. If I'm looking at this angle, here's its vertex, where is its corresponding angle? James.
Right across from the right. Right.
So I have to go to the other parallel line, and I think I have an x here, and I have an x here. So, James, if I'm at the other x, is it going to be up here? Yes or no?
No.
Here?
No.
Here?
Yes.
Is that in the same location on the x?
Oh, no.
No. it would be right here, because we want that to be in that lower left corner. See how we have our X and it's in the lower left? We have our X, it's in the lower left.
Okay.
So it needs to be in that same location. That lower left corner is going to correspond with the other lower left corner. So it won't be on this side. And the way that we know it with this set of lines is they have to be the same measurement. These two are acute angles. This one's obtuse. An obtuse angle can't have the same measurement as our acute angle. So it helps when we have an acute and an obtuse. You can say, well, the acute obviously is going to be the same as the other acute. The obtuse is bigger than 90 degrees. Sometimes it's really easy to see. Sometimes when they're closer in measurement degrees, like 88 degrees versus 92 degrees, it's harder to see that difference. But they have to be in that same location of the X. So this one was in that lower left corner of the X, so its corresponding angle would be the lower left corner of the X. Sometimes our lines, we have our two parallel lines, and then we go like that. It's not always going to be set up nice and neat. They can shift around a little. Same concept. We have our X, we have our X. We want to match up same positions. So if we look at this angle, where is its corresponding angle on our other X? So we're going to look, this is the lower right corner. So we want to go to the lower right corner over here. Same location, different X. They don't share the same vertex. So when we look down below, it says using all that you know about angles, complementary, supplementary, congruent angles, the vertex, the vertical angles, corresponding angles, we need to figure out all of the angle measurements. They give us one. And we're going to label every single angle. Here's how it's easy. We know that there are congruent angles. We know that there are supplementary angles because we have straight lines. Supplementary angles equal how much? 180. That's important to know. So this angle is 110 degrees. Look, this is a straight line. What's the angle next to it?
70.
I heard 110 and I heard 70.
80.
I just heard an 80. If it's a straight line, what does their sum have to be?
180.
180 degrees for a straight line, right? So if we know one angle of that supplementary angle, we can find the missing angle. So it's not going to be congruent. It's not going to be another 110 degrees because that's not going to be a straight line. It's not going to be 80 because it was 110, not 100. So when we were saying 70 degrees here, that is correct because 110 plus 70 equals 180.
Yeah, we said 80.
Oh, it doesn't matter, Enzo. Thank you. Now think about our vertical angles that we learned on the top. If this is 110 degrees, it shares a vertex with the one opposite of it. What is our opposite angle going to be? Think about our vertical angles at the top of the page. If this one's 110 degrees, what is this angle measurement going to be, Isabel? 110 degrees. They are congruent because they share that vertex and they are opposite of each other. So if this is 110 degrees and this is 70 degrees, what is this angle going to be? 70 degrees because it is opposite of this 70 degrees. They are vertical angles. And if we add it to our 110s, it makes those straight angles to be 180. So now we have to fill in this X up above that has no angles on it. They don't give us any angle measurements. How am I supposed to fill it in, JT? Because it's what kind of angles? Corresponding angles. So you're right, it does look the same because they are on parallel lines. They are corresponding angles. So what is this measurement? What's its corresponding angle, JT? 110 degrees. There we go. Because look, right here, it's 110 degrees. It is the corresponding angle in the exact same location on the other X. So now we know one of our measurements. Can we fill in all of the rest? Yeah, just like we filled it in down here, corresponding angles, vertical angles. We can easily fill in that second X. Once you figure out a corresponding angle, you can easily fill in the second X. They all have to match up. This angle matches up with this angle. This angle corresponds with this angle. This angle corresponds with this angle. So on the first X, you have to figure out the supplementary angle, equal 180 degrees. Then you can fill in the vertical angles. On your second X, you do the corresponding angles. Make sense? Any questions? Okay, it's a one-pager. So for my friends at home, we hope you are well. We hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.